Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. This video comes from Nashville. It does not follow a typical critical incident briefing type of format. There's no spokesperson for the video, and it's just raw body cam footage. This incident does have a news release that comes from the Nashville government, and I'll read it and then play the video. June 1, 2023. Hermitage Precinct Detective Donovan Coble remains in critical but stable condition, recovering from a gunshot wound to his side rib area as he pursued an armed auto burglary suspect this afternoon from a Donaldson parking lot over a fence and into a residential yard. The suspect, identified as Delama Casimir, 37, who carried a Florida driver license with a Pompano Beach address, is believed to have been wounded by Detective Coble's return fire, as well as gunfire from SWAT officer Tim Brewer about an hour later. Casimir died at 7:25 p.m. at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. At approximately 2:30 p.m. today, Detective Coble and his colleagues from the Hermitage Precinct's Community Field Intelligence Team responded to a call from the parking spot, an airport area parking lot for travelers, concerning an armed man who was breaking into cars. Detective Coble's body camera footage shows officers encountering Casimir in a rear parking lot. He was ordered to stop, but instead ran through the lot and jumped over a wooden fence. Detective Coble also jumped over the fence at that point with a taser in his hand and ordered Casimir to stop. During the chase, Detective Coble transitioned to his pistol just before Casimir pointed a .380 semi-automatic pistol over his shoulder in Coble's direction and fired. Detective Coble, although seriously wounded, returned Casimir's fire. Casimir appeared to go down into heavy brush. Detective Coble radioed that he had been shot and hurriedly went to the street. A fellow detective picked up Coble and rushed him to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. He is expected to fully recover. Hermitage Precinct officers as well as SWAT officers responded to the Donaldson Pike, Shacklet Drive, Claridge Drive, Upshaw Drive area to search for the then unidentified gunman. At 3:35 p.m., SWAT officer Tim Brewer, as shown on his body camera footage, was clearing a section of the heavy foliage when he came upon Casimir in the brush. Officer Brewer began shouting commands to Casimir and reported seeing the pistol. Brewer said that he perceived a gunshot Brewer said he perceived a gunshot and fired on Casimir. SWAT officers rendered aid to him, and he was transported to the hospital and into surgery. He died tonight. Detective Coble, 33, is a 4-year MNPD veteran who just this week was named Officer of the Year by the Donaldson Hermitage Exchange Club. Officer Brewer, 42, is a 16-year MNPD veteran. All right. So, Nashville government released 2 videos. One is from the first officer, and then the second is from the SWAT officer, which is about an hour after the initial shooting. So, I'll play the first video and then go back and do the breakdown on everything on it, and then I'll play the second video, let it play through, and then go back and do the breakdown on it. All right, here we go.
There's somebody in the car right here. Right here. That's him. Charles 63, come back to lot 2. Show your hands now! We got one running. Stop! Hop in the back fence. He's on the back street, and we're going into some neighborhoods. Just keep going inbound. I'm gonna tase you if you don't stop right now. I've already got you. Drop that gun! I'm hit. I'm at 562. I'm shot.
Yeah, I'm showing the shack right now. Charles 6-3, where you hit?
Hitting the ribs.
There, copy, Antonio.
Charles 6 Charles 6
I shot him, I think.
Okay, so let's get into this. Alright, so they're obviously driving an unmarked vehicle. It looks like maybe it's an older Ford Taurus, like early 2000 model Ford Taurus. Not really sure. But it's obviously an unmarked unit, because you can see when he gets out, it just looks like a regular car. They're also appearing to be dressed in blue jeans and t-shirts with tactical vests. So the name of their unit is Community Field Intelligence Team. So I don't know exactly what they do, but they obviously don't have to roll around wearing a normal like Class A or Class B uniform attire. They can just rock blue jeans, t-shirt, and a vest. So I would assume that sometimes they don't always wear their vest. They may be wearing these regular clothes and driving these regular looking cars, you know, blending in, so people look through the windows, all they see is a dude wearing a t-shirt. And you know, they could be doing that for surveillance, watching houses and people and stuff, and not trying to draw too much attention to themselves. You don't see any visor lights up here in the visor area, so it just completely unmarked car. I would suspect that you know, when they rolled in and they got so close to the guy, they said, hey, there he is, and that was a benefit to that. I'm sure had they rolled in through the gate, that dude would have spotted an obvious marked patrol car with light bar on top and stripes on the side, and then took off running a whole lot sooner. With the unmarked vehicle, obviously able to get a lot closer to the person before they realize, uh-oh, those people got vests on in that car, or, oh, they're staring at me, and then takes off. So I'd say the car allowed them to get a lot closer to this person than what they, you know, normally probably would have not been able to if they was in a marked car.
There's somebody in the car right here.
It is a two-man car. We got the driver and the passenger.
Right here.
So the news article stated that they were responding to a call of an armed car burglar. So that right off the bat says that this is going to be a high-risk type of incident. It's going to be a high-risk stop. A person armed with a weapon means that there's a high probability of a gunfight occurring. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. So at the end of this video, when he got in that pickup truck, you could see that officer had a rifle in the passenger seat area. That officer was thinking from the right mindset, having a rifle out and ready to deploy. We don't see a rifle, but that doesn't mean that there's not a rifle in this car. It could be in the back seat, it could be in the trunk, I don't know. But it does not appear as though there's a rifle in the front cab area at all. This is a two-man car, and I think that's wrong. the passenger should definitely be having the rifle. That way, when the passenger gets out, boom, able to go ahead and quickly put that rifle into play. Now, I don't know between the two. We can't see the officer, the camera, what he looks like. But he's pretty quick. He's pretty fast. He's pretty much outrunning the second guy when they're out and about. So I think that the driver at this point is probably the more physically fit person. The more physically fit person, in my opinion, in a two-man car needs to be sitting in the passenger seat, because you can more quickly deploy from that vehicle than the driver can, because the driver has to go through the motions of stopping the vehicle, throwing the vehicle into park, and getting out. The passenger technically can bail out of that vehicle even before that vehicle comes to a very complete stop, or right as it has come to a complete stop and before it ever gets thrown into park. We're talking seconds, but seconds do matter. So I think the most physically fit person needs to be riding shotgun, because they can more quickly bail out of that vehicle and go run somebody down.
Trial 63, come back to lot 2. Show your hands now! Trial 60.
So it looked like you could see his head. Oh, never mind, that's a tree. So I don't know how far away he is from them.
That's it. Trial 63, come back to lot 2. Show your hands! Now!
Here's a vehicle right here with the car door open. So this could have been the vehicle that he was in.
We got one running.
Looks like a little debris field here. Not sure what all this is. I suspect
We got one running.
that it could be some of his loot that he was stealing from vehicles. Now, of course, when I pause it, I can't get the freeze frame right. Looks like a bag and another bag with stuff in it. So I suspect that this is the stuff that he has stolen out of some cars so far, and he has now dropped it because it's slowing him down. Of course, this officer you see is in the lead, but this officer here quickly passes him up.
Hop in the back fence.
I mean, they're right on it, but you could tell that he was
He's on the back street.
a lot quicker, and he cleared that fence a lot quicker than the other officer. So this parking lot, I don't know anything about this area. It doesn't look like it's, in the airport area. It looks like it's an off-site parking for the airport, and it's near a residential area. How is that parking lot monitored? I don't know. There could be cameras set up around the parking lot that a alarm company or security company monitors. I kind of doubt that there is a security guard there for the simple fact that that guy was in that lot breaking into cars. So personally, I kind of think that the airport is somewhat liable in this incident, because they have this off-site parking with just a little wooden fence around the place. Those vehicles aren't very well protected. Anybody can scale over a freaking fence like that. And so they're basically creating crimes of opportunity for criminals. And it's like an attractant. If they would provide a security guard for that lot to deter people from coming in there, then one, those people who were victimized by having their cars broken into would not have been victims. And then secondly, it's not very likely that this officer would have been shot in this incident. So I think there is some blame and responsibility for the airport for not doing better security at this off-site parking. Definitely think they could invest in a better fence. A fence with some barbed wire across the top of it. Now, it being in a residential area, there might be some type of ordinance in that city that says, you know, you can't have barbed wire fences in residential areas or something. I have no idea, but I think a taller fence and some barbed wire at the top, or even razor wire at the top, would go a long way in deterring people from getting in. Most definitely believe that having a guard on site would be the best thing. All right. So this officer starts chasing this guy in between this house and goes to the right. The other officer, as we see later on, it looks like he ends up going this way. So that second officer was thinking of, you know, cutting off this way. Now, how far behind he was, I don't know. But even between these houses, they could have even gone left. So I think he may have been a little bit further behind to be able to see them go between these houses and at least kind of see they went to the right, or could tell that since he didn't see anything go to the left, they had to have gone to the right. And he had the mindset of immediately going to the right and then go in between these houses to maybe catch the guy coming through and get him from the front.
And we're going into some neighborhoods. Just keep going inbound. I'm going to tase you if you don't stop right now.
So the officer has his taser out. And to my knowledge, the way the news article says, or the news release says, that they were responding to a call of an armed car burglar. So that means this officer should know that this guy is potentially armed. This officer is choosing to have a taser in his hand. He is choosing to have a less lethal weapon in his hand with no lethal cover there. His partner isn't with him. He is faster than his partner. His partner is behind them. How far behind, I don't know. When they were still inside the parking lot and approaching that fence area, they were kind of close together. So in that scenario, I could see the justification for him having taser out because the other guy was there with lethal cover. But now that he has crossed that fence and is chasing this dude through the yard, and the other officer, pretty confident, is nowhere near them, he's stuck with a less lethal weapon in his hand while this guy is armed with a lethal weapon. That goes against all training when it comes to less lethal weapons and needing to have lethal coverage. So you never pull a less lethal weapon on a person who's armed with a deadly physical weapon unless you have someone there with a gun providing lethal cover to you, because your less lethal weapon could fail. And there are a lot of videos out there of tasers failing. Clothing disconnect, probes too close together, one probe misses, and you don't achieve an MI. So it could have been possible had this officer been any closer and popped this guy with taser that he could have had a clothing disconnect. One probe could have missed. Two probes could have been too close together. This guy could have easily spun around with the gun and began firing while the officer still had taser in his hand. So that's why you do not pull a less lethal weapon on someone who has a lethal weapon unless you have someone there with lethal cover to be able to immediately act while your hand is occupied with a less lethal. It appeared to me as though as he was chasing this guy down, he was going to plan on shooting this guy in the back with the taser. Some people do not like that tactic because when a person is running and you pop them in the back with taser and they lock up, their momentum still carries them forward and they hit the ground like a sack of potatoes and then slide. So when they're on, asphalt or concrete, they can get some abrasions. They can get some road rash going on. Because you got to think, if someone's running full speed, they might be running like 15 miles per hour or something, and you pop them in the back with taser and they instantly lock up. They no longer control their legs. Their legs are no longer moving. They just lock up. They're still moving forward at 15 miles per hour, and they smack that ground like they're sliding in the home base. Those are probably some of the most funniest taser videos to watch. And like I said, I have no problem with that tactic whatsoever. And this officer may have done this before. He may have seen other people do it before. And he may have been trying to go for that option. Again, no problem with that, but the problem I have is there is no lethal cover there. And this guy is reported to have had a gun. So this was a bad decision on his part. It did appear as though he began to transition from taser to gun. So I think that may have helped him get his gun in the fight a lot sooner had he had kept the taser in the hand the whole time. But this kind of sums up fortuitous outcomes reinforce bad decisions. When you do things against what tactics show and you get lucky, that just makes you think that what you're doing works or will work all the time. Now, you've just gotten lucky when you break the rules. So fortuitous outcomes reinforce bad decisions. Always go back to the training.
I've already got you. Drop that gun! Drop that! I'm gonna tase you if you don't stop right now. I've already got you. Drop that gun! I got you. Drop that gun! Right now. I've already got you. Drop that gun! Drop that gun! Drop that gun! Drop that gun!
All right. So let's slow this thing down. So he raises his gun up above his head and fires behind him blindly. So he has fired his gun at this officer with his back completely to the officer. So when incidents like this occur and bad guys get shot in the back, there are some people who just lose their mind. And they say, oh my God, the officer shot him in the back. Should never shoot a person in the back. Blah, 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 blah. It's like these people, they just can't understand physics. They just can't understand, basic human anatomy. Just because a person's back is turned to you doesn't mean that they're not a deadly physical threat. Him firing that gun behind him like that, he could have got a 1 in a million shot, a a hellaciously lucky 1 in a million shot and put around that officer's face. I mean, there's been people who stood on the basketball court and threw the basketball behind them, and it lands. Hits hoop. Other wild ass, trick shots or other things, that you would never think would happen. One of those 1 in a million chances. Yes, a person is still or can still be a deadly physical threat with their back turned. And in this instance, when he fires that shot and he's still running and his back is exposed, it's like some of these people think that people should wait until the person turns to face them before they start shooting. That makes zero sense to me. These people who say this stuff and think, or think along those lines, I think their thought process is being guided mostly by what they see on TV or in movies. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with shooting a person in the back. If they're a deadly physical threat, they're a deadly physical threat. You need to stop the threat. Shooting into the back is not a whole lot different than shooting into the chest. You're still shooting into the chest area. You're going for center mass. The only difference is, number one, the spine is now closer to you. So you shoot into someone's chest, the spine is going to be to the very back. And you've got, when you go into the chest, you've got the rib cage to contend with. And then you've got your heart, lungs, aorta up in there. And then behind that is the spine. Shooting from the back, you still got the rib cage portion to deal with, right? But the spine is closest to you. And then once you go past that, you still got those other organs. More of a benefit, I guess you could say, of a person's back being to you is that spine being closer to you and having a higher likelihood that your round or rounds could hit the spine and cause them to become immobilized. I think that's possibly what happened to this guy. I think he took a round to the spine and was not able to move past that point. Because about an hour later, the SWAT team comes, and he's in that same area. He's in that kind of same spot. Now, it's possible that, during that whole hour time frame, he decided to just hide there, thinking that, they would think that he wasn't in the same spot, that he had to have moved on somewhere. But I think it's possible that he took a hit to the spine and just simply was not able to walk away. He immediately goes down after taking hits. And he rolls over into kind of a supine position and shoots back. So, I don't want to give the guy any credit, but he did have a pretty good recovery from falling down. I mean, he went down, he went into kind of a roll, and immediately began returning fire. The officer, this whole time, and I don't know, we can't see his hands. We know that he's transitioning from taser to gun. Is it possible that his left hand still has the taser. I don't know. It's possible that as he was running, he transitioned the taser to his left hand to get his right hand down onto the gun and was trying to simultaneously put that taser back into its holster with his left hand. In this kind of scenario where you see that weapon and you've still got that less lethal weapon in your hand, I think it's acceptable to just completely drop that less lethal weapon. Jettison it from the hand and let it hit the ground. It's no longer a viable option to keep your hands full with that thing. And in this scenario, if it was the case of him holding on to that less lethal weapon while shooting, I think that is causing him to fire one-handed with his gun because he's still holding on to that taser with his left hand or trying to put it away. When you think about a handgun and its accuracy, you only got 2 points of contact on that handgun, your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand. When you take your non-dominant hand off and you go to just a one-handed grip, that's almost like slashing your accuracy in half. So by retaining something in your offhand, you're affecting your accuracy. So had he dropped the taser, which like I said, I don't know for sure if he's holding the taser, I'm just thinking he is. If he had dropped that taser and let it hit the ground, he could have gone to a two-handed grip for this pistol and improved his accuracy. And he could have got better shot placement on this bad guy and prevented this bad guy from returning fire like he did. So out of all these rounds that he has fired, I am confident that not all of them have hit the target. I'm sure that some have missed him. If he had had a two-handed grip, out of all the rounds he fired, I think more would have hit the target. And that could have had a desired effect to stop the threat. Okay, so we'll bring it out of slow speed back to normal. Now, at this point, he has taken fire, he's been hit, and now he is leaving the fight. That bad guy back there, still in the fight. He was still moving around. So, potentially, at this point, that bad guy could have stood back up and stepped out of the bushes and fired on these dudes as this guy was walking away with his back turned. The other guy kind of turned and sideways, but almost looks like he starts to turn and have his back turned to him. Now, like I said, I think that it's likely that dude took a hit to the spine, which is why he stayed there for about an hour. But it's plausible that that guy could have got up, stepped around the bush, and started firing on these two as they began to tactically retreat from there. I've never been shot before, but there have been other people who've been shot, and they stayed there and stayed in that fight. So this guy could have stayed there in the fight. The partner guy definitely could have continued that fight. Now, where the partner goes once this guy starts going this way, I don't know. We don't get to see him very clearly anymore at this point, past this point. So I don't know if he stayed in this immediate area and provided overwatch to make sure that, the guy didn't come this way. He could have only gone the other way. It makes me think that he probably didn't stay in this area, because it ended up being about an hour later before everybody got on scene, and you see the SWAT guys talking right down here past this point, closer to the bushes, about how they're going to go in there and start clearing those woods and foliage. And the dude's right there. So it makes me think that they really had no clue where this guy was after this incident. So that makes me think that this partner did not stay in this immediate area to be an observer and see, if the guy come out, if he could hear rustling in the bushes or anything like that. I think he kind of went up here with this officer and was in this area up here, and total visual and coverage of this area was completely lost.
I'm hit. I'm hit. I'm at 562. I'm shot.
Yeah, you can see what looks like his partner's shadow right down in here. I'll back it up just a little bit. Let's see that again. Yep. So it looks like his partner's right there. So they lost complete visual back there of where that guy could have gone. Not the best actions, in my opinion. I think that partner guy should have stayed back there. Press the issue, continue the fight if need be, or at least stand there and provide the overwatch to see if you could see, where the guy could be going. At least, contain him to that area. So I like how the truck officer had the rifle. Again, if you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. So this officer in the truck had the right mindset, bringing a rifle, having that rifle in the front seat, ready to quickly deploy it. Now, this also appears to be another unmarked vehicle. We don't see any visor lights in there. We can see the outside of the pickup truck. It looked like a normal pickup truck. Interestingly enough, it does have a mobile radio mounted in the center console area. It's right down there between the seats. Despite having a mobile radio in the vehicle, he decides to use his portable. Not a big fan of using portable radios without a lapel mic. I think that lapel mics are necessary pieces of equipment for portable radios. I think they're life-saving pieces of equipment, and that all portable radios for public safety use should have them on there. And in fact, I don't even think it should be an option to make it detachable or not. I think it should just come built into the damn thing. The idea of having a portable radio in a public safety field and having to reach down, take it off the belt, take it out of a pouch, talk into it, put it back, secure it, unsecure it, take it out, talk into it, put it back, secure it. That's a lot of unnecessary movements right there. And I've talked about this in other videos when it comes to officers holding these things and getting in the gunfights. It is very easy to drop that radio out of your hand. And in a gunfight, dropping your radio and being separated from your radio, you've lost your communications at that point. You're not able to talk to people, tell people where you're at, tell people you've been injured, etc. The radio should be secured in a pouch on your body and have a lapel mic attached to it. And the lapel mic is what you use to talk through. That way, something happens, that radio is always on you, it's always attached to you, and you can never be separated from it. Some people will complain that the lapel mic piece itself can be easily knocked off during a fight or a scuffle, and that is true. The little lapel mics have a small clip. They don't really clip and dig into anything very well, but there are remedies to that. There's a company called Mic Loop. They make some products that pretty much take that problem out of the equation, and if you don't want to buy it, you can make your own with paracord or even shock cord. Very easy, simple to do. Now, it says that they went to a hospital. So, ambulance response times can be, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It depends on the area. Is this a faster option? Yeah, it's definitely a faster option. I mean, they're in a vehicle, they can boom, hit the gas, and go. And be either halfway there or almost there before the ambulance, possibly before the ambulance could have ever gotten to the scene. However, although this is a quicker transport option, what level of medical care is being provided at this point? Almost none, really, unless the officer who's been injured is going to be applying a chest seal to himself, which is possible. But other than that, the driver can't provide any care. He has to operate the vehicle. There's not a third person in that vehicle. So basically what's going on right now is no different than what was being done in the 1930s to about hell, in some places up until the 1960s. Back then, we didn't have ambulances like we do today. Ambulances that you know of today did not really come out into widespread use until like probably the 1970s. Ambulance got its start from funeral homes. Funeral homes would drive a hearse out to the scene of a car accident or somewhere and put a person in the back and then go to the hospital. Just the driver in there. They scoop the person up, put them in the back, drive them to the hospital. Then it started to evolve to someone would go with the funeral home driver and they would sit in the back and tend to someone. And then it started to evolve more from there, going into a what we would kind of know as an ambulance today, still using a hearse body style vehicle. Now, when you think about the Ghostbusters vehicle, Ecto 1, that's a hearse / ambulance style vehicle. And those things were very popular back in the day because that's how, like I said, EMS got its start. Fucking funeral homes going out picking people up off the side of the road after a car accident and hauling out to the hospital. So what's being done right now in 2023 was no different than what was being done in 1930. So although you may be getting a faster transport time by doing something like this, you're not getting any treatment done. So there needs to be someone in the vehicle providing care to that person as you're hauling ass. Alright, enough on this video. Let's jump into that second video and break it down. Okay, so this is the second video from the SWAT officer. So this is about an hour after the first officer got shot. So I don't know the exact details of, you know, what has taken so long for everyone to come into this area. I would suspect that as more units arrived in the area, officers began to position themselves around the area to set up containment. That way they could narrow down the area that this guy could be at. I have not looked at any aerials of this area. I don't know if this is just like a very small, isolated spot with heavy foliage, or if it kind of leads into, you know, like half acre of woods, you know, like some undeveloped land or something. I don't know. But it has taken almost an hour for multiple people to get there, and for some of these SWAT officers to form up and go into this area to search for this guy. We see this officer here with a rifle. See another one. You'll see another one pop up with a rifle here and there. So I'll play the video and then I'll start breaking stuff down.
Hey Josh, you want to get online and clear this stuff right here? We could probably take care of this while they hold on that. Yeah, that'll work. We'll just get online and push through this stuff. Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands! Get your hands up! Cut! Let me see your hands! Your hands! Put your hands in the air!
Hey, move them.
Put your hands in the air!
Now. Stop moving.
I got a gun right there. Oh, he's got a gun in his hand. I got a gun.
Stop moving. Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
All right, move in. Hold on. Has he got a gun in his hand?
Gun's over there by the back pocket. Roll over on your stomach. Roll over on your stomach now! Give us the air. All right, move in. Put your hand behind your back. Give me the other hand. Give me the other hand. Give me the other hand behind the back now. Put it behind your back.
Okay, so started right there. All right, so this officer and other officers have rifles, so they know they're going to a gunfight or possible gunfight, so they're bringing rifles. So it's good that they all have rifles now. As I said, and I always say, if you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. Rifles dominate gunfights. They stop them a lot faster. It's daytime, and they're going into some heavy bush, some heavy foliage. This can be a difficult environment to go into and fight in. Think about like jungle warfare. Jungle warfare is difficult because your visibility is cut down a lot when you're under canopy and you're in the jungle floor. Just lots and lots of just heavy, thick foliage, and I mean just lots of growing plants and trees. Just, I mean, it's the jungle. When you look at, you know, past incidents of like jungle warfare, you know, it not be uncommon to hear stories about patrols walking right up to the enemy, and then contact happens, and they just got so close to each other because that was the only point in time they could see each other. Many stories about how, people could never see the enemy, but they could start to hear them and then smell them before they ever saw them. So, and that's also like why in Vietnam, they try to use these chemicals to kill all the foliage and, take away those hiding spots around areas because it presents a huge problem for being able to see stuff. You just can't see through all that crap. So for them, even though it's daytime, and daytime is the best time to be able to see things, even though it's daytime, you still can't see shit. This officer was right on top of the dude before he noticed he was there. Right on top of him. And it doesn't have anything to do with him not paying attention or not being alert or anything like that. It's just the nature of the environment. All that heavy foliage right there can conceal a person pretty well. So I know that Nashville has air support. They've got helicopters. I don't know what's on the helicopters. I suspect the helicopters have thermal imaging. Even during the day, thermal imaging could be used to spot this person out laying on the ground. So why they didn't have that kind of aerial support, I don't know. But I think had they used a helicopter with a FLIR, they would have seen this guy. A second option, which is a lot more feasible for many places, because many places just cannot afford a helicopter. When you look at the cost of an actual helicopter, it's out there. It is freaking expensive. The cost of the airframe itself, millions of dollars. The crew of pilots. Actually, let me rephrase that. The team. The squad, the fucking platoon of pilots. You got to have more than just one or two pilots, right? You got multiple shifts. You got day shift, midday shift, night shift. Those people got to have days off. So you got people, you got to have a freaking squad platoon of people just to fly the damn thing. And their salaries are going to be higher because that is a very unique skill set. And then the maintenance of the damn thing. Are you going to outsource that maintenance? You're going to contract out, have people come in and do it. You're going to have your own people do it. That's an expenditure. And then the parts for the damn thing, those things are expensive. The fuel, like the equipment that goes into it, the FLIR stuff, several thousands of dollars. It is a lot of money to have a helicopter. Just one helicopter. There's only so many places here in the U.S. that can even afford to do that. So drones help kind of improve things for agencies. Now, drones can't do, drones can only probably do like a quarter, if even that, of what helicopters could do. But in this kind of scenario, a drone would have been a perfect piece of equipment to utilize. Send the drone in, have it go over top of this heavy foliage, scan down, and then boom, they would have been able to see this guy and know exactly where he was before putting boots on the ground, going in there, and potentially being ambushed. Had that guy had that gun in his hand, well, actually, he did have the gun in his hand because that's why the officer shot. But had that guy been in any better condition to initiate an ambush on an officer coming up there, this officer right here could have very well have been shot in the face. As you can see, he was right on top of the guy before he noticed him. So they're making all this noise. They're talking. He's talking to this dude. Hey, Josh, get up here. Let's get online, blah, blah, blah. That dude's laying right there in front of him, right here in front of where this cursor is at. He's hearing them. He knows they're there. He could hear him stepping into this brush. He most likely saw him through the crack of the leaves before this officer noticed him. That dude could have very easily pop this officer in the face. So if Nashville has a helicopter, they've got to have drones. And so I think drones would have been a great tool to utilize for this scenario, and it should have been utilized. The third next best thing is to use a dog. Dogs are tools. They're a tool just like a pistol, a baton, a taser, can of pepper spray, car, whatever. They are a tool. I think people get it mixed up when the tool also looks like the family pet, and in some aspects can act like the family pet. Come up to you, wag its tail, rub its nose on you, show its affection to you. I think a lot of people who become handlers very easily transition from being a handler to a quasi-handler / pet owner. The dog is a easier expenditure. The dog is supposed to take the bullet before a human. So yeah, would there be a risk of the dog being shot by sending it in? Yes, most definitely. But I would rather see the dog die than this officer right here die. The dog is a tool. So they could have utilized a dog to go in there, sniff them out, and start attacking. Another option is to smoke him out. If they suspect he's in there somewhere, call out the verbals. Hey, identify yourself. We know you're in there. Put your hands up. We're coming to you, etc. He don't want to respond, or he does respond but says he can't move. You don't know if he can't move or not. I suspect he probably couldn't move his lower extremities, because I suspect he probably was hit in the spine. But even, if he does respond but doesn't, come crawling out or anything like that, I think smoking him out, or at least attempting to smoke him out, would be a good option. Throw some tear gas canisters in there. SWAT teams there, they've got to have tear gas. Lob some tear gas in there. They got to have MK9s or the big fire extinguisher sized can of OC. Hose that place down with the OC. Start firing pepper balls into that area. Smoke them out. There could have been some options done before putting boots on the ground and have them walk into a potential ambush. Boots on the ground. Before going into such heavy foliage, there is the possibility that you can work your angles and go from this corner and go to this corner, and you'd be able to see differently from different angles. So from this angle, because this looks pretty thick, if you're standing over here looking in there, you might not see a whole lot. But over here, in between here and here, is a bit of an opening, which is what we saw that guy running into when he got shot. So had he just moved to the left a whole lot, rifle up in the high ready position, cutting the pie, so to speak, on this quote-unquote corner, it's possible that he could have seen the guy laying down from out here and then begin able to address the issue of him in there, versus step up to here and then boom, literally on top of him and at risk of being ambushed in the face. I'm not a big fan of these little scope things, the LVPOs or whatever. it seems like they're kind of the rage with a lot of people. I just don't see the point in them for an everyday rifle use. I think that a magnifier, such as like the EOTech magnifier, is suffice. It can roll it down to have it out of use, and if you need it, pop it back into its position to look through and magnify through the red dot sight. I think that's the best setup right there. These, like I said, I'm just not the biggest fan of them, but they seem to be quite the rage with many other people. This officer does have what appears to be a infrared laser sight on the end here, and also has what appears to be a silencer on the rifle itself. So that tells me that this guy is most likely SWAT, which we already know he's SWAT because the news article talks about it. But anytime you start to see night vision compatible equipment on a rifle and a silencer, that's a pretty clear indication that they're most likely going to be SWAT, or CRT, SRT, whatever, special team designation a team has. He's a special person. Whereas you see this guy, it appears he only has a weapon-mounted light and no silencer. And you see his uniform, it just has what looks to be a normal uniform shirt with the patch on the side.
See your hands! Your hands! Put your hands in there!
Hey, move them!
Put your hands!
So it's possible this guy's just a patrol dude, and this is just a regular patrol rifle.
Now!
Whereas you see this other dude over here, he's got the night vision on his helmet, and you can see that he has a silencer too, and the other attachments as well.
I got a gun right there. Oh, he's got a gun in his hand. I got a gun.
Stop moving! Put your hands up!
Maybe he don't have a silencer on his.
Put your hands up!
All right, move in.
Hold on. Has he got a gun in his hand?
Gun's over there by the back pocket. Roll over under your stomach. Pocket.
Put your hands up!
Right there. Oh, he's got a gun in his hand.
Stop moving!
I got a gun.
Okay, so maybe he don't have a silencer on his. It's so it varies from area to area on how these SWAT teams and stuff have their equipment. There's some SWAT teams where, and even the SWAT teams themselves are different on how they're set up. There's a few SWAT teams out here in the U.S. where they operate kind of like a fire department. You have a staffed team of officers who that's their only job is SWAT. They don't go work patrol or anything like that. They're purely just SWAT. They're on standby the whole time for SWAT stuff. If they're not doing calls, they're doing training, kind of like a fire department. Most other places, because they can't afford to do that, their SWAT team consists of officers from the patrol division. And so you may have a SWAT team that has like 20 people on it on the roster, but during normal hours of operation, like let's say first shift hours, from like 7 to 3 or something like that, or 7 to 2:30, whatever. Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, out of your 20-man roster for the SWAT team, there may be only like 4 or 5 people from the SWAT team who work first shift. And they're working patrol. Everyone else is, either that's their day off, or they don't come to work until second shift or third shift. And so a lot of places, when they do that, the officers are allowed to have their SWAT gear in their vehicle. So they'll have their special SWAT vest and their helmet in there. They'll have that rifle that they use that has all the different attachments on it that is way different than just their regular patrol rifle that someone else would have. Some agencies may allow those officers to keep the silencer on the rifle. Some may not. There's some out there that because it's a NFA item, they want to control it, and they'll keep it in the armory at the station. Or it may be locked up in the response vehicle that's at a secure site. Same with like NFDDs or flashbangs. Since those are destructive devices, they put more control over that. And, a SWAT team guy may have his vest set up with pouches to hold flashbangs, but he can't keep the flashbangs in his vest when he's out on patrol because their policy says those things have to be secured in a magazine at the station or kept in the response vehicle or something like that. Same thing with machine guns. So like, your old school MP5s, things like that. Those are NFA items, and some agencies may say that those can't be kept in a patrol car, and they have to stay in the armory or the response vehicle or whatever, and then they get drawn out when a call happens. Other places, they don't have policies like that. Officers can ride around with their rifles with silencers attached. They can ride around with flashbangs in their car, and they can ride around with a full auto MP5 in the trunk of their car. Some places will even go so far as to install special safes in those vehicles, like a rollout safe tray for the trunk area to keep that NFA item or items more secure. Or I've seen altering the trunk with chains, like heavy duty chains, so that when you open the trunk, it only opens like half a foot or a foot, just enough for you to be able to reach in there with your key and unlock the padlock that's keeping the trunk in a more closed position so that it can't be pried open and have stuff stolen out of it very easily. So I don't know how they are set up. We do see this first officer that appears to have a silencer on it, but the other guy who has the night vision and everything set up, he doesn't appear to have a silencer on his. So talking about silencers and fighting rifles, when it comes to a fighting rifle, number one, it needs to have a sling on there. It needs to have a weapon-mounted light on there. And although you can do iron sights, it needs to have, in my opinion, a red dot sight, holographic sight on there as your primary, but then having your irons there as a backup, and then a silencer. I think a silencer is a necessary piece of equipment for a rifle, and it is a necessary life-saving piece of equipment for a rifle because it reduces the overall sound signature of that rifle down to safer hearing levels, so that if you were to deploy that thing without hearing protection on, you're not going to be incurring the hearing loss and damage that you would be if you had no earplugs in or earmuffs on. You can fire that gun with a silencer on it, and it's safe enough to not cause hearing damage. And with that, you can also communicate a lot easier with people after having shot a rifle because your ears are not freaking ringing like your head was in a bell. It drops it down low enough. It's still loud. It sounds like a overgassed, nail gun or something, or a paintball gun. It just has the pistols do. Depending on the rifle, the silencer manufacturer, some silencers are better than others. But even with a rifle, shooting it suppressed, it's still loud. Like it's almost like a 22 at a distance almost. Like it still makes a very, very freaking loud noise. But it's not so loud that it is causing extreme ringing of the ears. So even after having fired the thing, you can communicate very clearly to other people and still be able to hear them. Even when someone is shooting suppressed rifle, someone can still be communicating over the sound of that suppressed rifle being fired. The silencers reduce the recoil, so that's a benefit. You get reduced recoil out of the rifle with it. When it comes to nighttime, you get reduced muzzle signature with flash, so that helps prevent your nods from being flashed out. And then kind of another benefit of a silencer is lots of people who've been shot at with silenced weapons have reported that it was very difficult to tell exactly where they were being shot at from. So that's kind of a benefit. So if you're shooting at someone, at distance with a silenced gun, they could have a harder time trying to figure out where you're at. The downside to a suppressed rifle, especially when you're doing the DI style AR, is the gas blowback. So you can get a lot of gas blowback when you shoot that thing. You can shoot it without iPro, but it can be annoying and slightly detrimental when you get some gas blowback into your eye area if you don't have iPro on. With piston, that improves a whole lot. But with DI, you just get a lot of gas blowback when that bolt comes back, and from the gas tube and the bolt starting to separate, and all that gas going around the bolt and coming out the rear of the receiver there, it's noticeable. Anyway,
Gun right there.
Oh, he's got a gun in his hand.
I got a gun.
Stop moving! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
All right, move in.
Hold on. Has he got a gun in his hand?
Gun's over there by the back pocket. Roll over under your stomach. Stomach now! Move in. Put him on the back.
he goes in to secure this guy. Rifles dangling right there in front of him. Depending on the slings and stuff you can get one of those tactical slings where you have the ability to very quickly cinch the sling up or uncinch it. Like the product Slingster, or the Blue Force Tactical Sling. Those are good slings to have so that you can very quickly, with the rifle right there in front of you, cinch that sling up and draw that rifle close into you and kind of keep it stiffer to your body. You even start to push it down, rotate it off to the side, cinch that thing off, and have that rifle cinched off to your side, so it's not dangling in front of you like that. With it dangling in front of you like that, it just kind of makes things awkward with trying to handle and do things and whatnot. So a good sling is paramount for tactical applications. That way you can cinch that thing off, draw it in tight to your body, and it's not going to dingle around and dangle like that.
Give me the other hand. Give me the other hand.
Give me the hand. Back now.
So we see the blur box. It looks like he's been, obviously shot in the back from the first officer. I don't know exactly what his orientation was before being shot. He could have been on his back, could have been on his side. Don't know. We know that when the first officer disengaged from him, he was on his back because he fell and kind of rolled into his back and fired from that position. But we see the blur right there. He's been hit there. Looks like his arm's been hit as well, because you see them start to blur his arm out, and then you can kind of see it go out of the blur box frame, and you can see a lot of redness right there in the arm.
Put your hand behind the back now.
Put him behind your back.
Put your hand behind the back now.
So he ended up dying from his injuries.
Give me the other hand. Give me the other hand.
I suspect
Behind the back.
that due to the fact that he had been shot with pistol and was still alive almost an hour after that, I suspect that the pistol rounds may not have been fatal for him. They were incapacitating, obviously, but they may not have been fatal for him. He still could have ended up dying from those pistol hits. I don't know. But I would suspect that probably the rifle had something to do with him expiring. When you start putting rifle rounds into the equation, it's a night and day difference. Pistol calibers suck, and I don't care what pistol caliber you've got. 9, 40, 45, 357, whatever. They all suck in comparison to rifle. Rifles, as I've said, dominate gunfights. They stop those gunfights a lot faster. With a pistol, you could take anywhere from 3 to 10 rounds to incapacitate a threat. With a rifle, it could be as few as 1 to 3 rounds to rapidly incapacitate that threat. The terminal ballistics are just night and day. They really are. And that is why you should bring a rifle to a gunfight and bring your friends with rifles to a gunfight. Alright, not much else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.